Welcome to Malcolm and We, heard exclusively on malcolmpresents.com, a streaming platform heard round the world and beyond. And I'm Malcolm Berman, your host, and here's my co-host, Yana Larson. Yana, introduce our guest.
Yes. Today we have Sande Harte, and she is a passionate mother, grandmother, and wife, as well as an award-winning leader in women's empowerment and interfaith community building. She founded the Global Women's Village, an inspiring grassroots international organization formerly named SARA, or the Spiritual and Religious Alliance for Hope. Sande's leadership shines in her dedication to peace, interfaith cooperation, compassion, the rights of Indigenous peoples, community building, and the empowerment of women. She established and directed the Women and Girls sector for the international organization Charter for Compassion and has served as chair of the United Religions Initiative for North America and led the Women's Task Force for the Parliament of the World's Religions, working tirelessly to uplift voices and create meaningful change. We are pleased that Sande could join us today. Welcome, Sande. We women sure need your power assist, even more than we used to. Help!
Could you explain yourself, please? Welcome, Sande.
Great introduction. Just let's start with help. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I just want clarity. I wasn't the director of the Women's Task Force for the Parliament, but I sure was on the task force, and I disrupted plenty, and bringing new, stretching the edges of what's possible in the world's largest interfaith conference.
Good trouble, then.
Good trouble.
Well, good for you.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you,
But as I
Malcolm.
always
Thank
say,
you,
what do
Yana.
you do in your spare time? Sleep?
Oh, I've got three grandchildren that
Oh,
soak up every spare second. They live 10 minutes. But really I don't know what spare time means because I like the spaces in between is where all of the juices, it's where life is. It's like when I get out of my way from doing my dedicated task, if that's what you mean by everything else is my spare time, it's playing in this realm. It's doing the same thing I was doing, but without bumpers, without time constraints and things to fulfill. So it's really about staying curious in that space and what's possible, especially right now. We're in such
Speaking of
fruitful time.
bumpers, you had a really cute picture on post on Facebook with one of your grandchildren, must be a granddaughter, who she was having to serve. She had a bit of a punishment, so she wasn't allowed to wear her princess dress, and so she was wearing this box.
She threatened us. It's like that or nothing else. And it wasn't just any box. It was a robot box with a
Yes,
bicycle helmet on her head.
yes, and
But that's the
reminded me of my
disruptor.
children.
That's that. This is the world where we're really well served when we pay attention to our young ones because they're
Yes,
wired differently for these
yeah,
evolutionary times.
they are.
And besides that, she's a ham sandwich,
but I find out, well, the older I'm getting, the more I'm not understanding the youth because I'm not understanding the input, that they get with the TikTok, with the internet, with all the different internet type of programming they watch. Because I have two kids that are the kids there, they're going to be 30, one is 28, and they tell me things that I've never heard about.
Isn't
And
that
I
wonderful?
assume what you have with your grandkids and your kids, but
Yeah.
I grew up in a different era. So,
Yeah, there's generationally, now generations used to be the span of a style of music, for example, or that's how we measured, clothing and music. generally is how we can very easily identify a generation. Those generation gaps are now the life of a computer, I was taught that by a young person. When I said, what's the difference between my generation and yours? He said, our generation gap is squeezing down. Now it's second by second because the information we're getting, that internet is just bringing us too much. We're being saturated with information. And we believe what we hear. I think you said that before we went live here today. Malcolm, you said, we were joking around, right? And you said, and I heard, careful what you say because people will believe it. And we do have to be impeccable with our words and the things that we're putting out in the world. And then also learn to be discerning. And another big one is to question assumptions about what we think. And
Well,
this is what I'm
well,
getting from millennials right now.
yeah. Well, what I find out is when I Google something, I'm interested in something, I get that, but then I get for the next month or so everything about that subject that maybe I don't want to know, but I get, and I assume
You
the
mean ads?
yeah, one, yeah, ads, but also information, different websites that feature something about the subject that I asked for.
Algorithms.
And I assume that the younger generations are getting that also. So they're getting a lot of the things that I am not, because my interest would be different.
Mhm. Totally.
So
It's marketing 101. It's
yeah,
basically, and careful what you say too, because your phones and your devices are picking up all this stuff. My husband and I might be talking about tricycles, and all of a sudden both of us go to our computers and we're just getting flooded with
right.
tricycle ads. Yeah. So it's the algorithms. And isn't that an interesting, an interesting, demonstration? No, that's not the word. Doesn't that beautifully articulate the information we get out in the world anyway? We are what we focus on appears to us. The internet and the computer and the devices are showing us what we say and what we look for or write about or stay on a picture on Instagram a little longer than normal. That's an algorithm. They're going to see that. But also, what do we do in our minds? Where do we choose to put our thoughts? And it is our moment of choice right now.
That reminds me of I was in, it was in a webinar about mental health and insidious trauma. And they were showing this film clip, kind of reminded me of like the ones that I used to see in sociology about the prison experiment or the blue eye, brown eye, thing what the teacher had done. And it was about, we were supposed to see, there were like, I don't know, six people, and some were wearing black shirts and some were wearing white shirts. And they're walking in a circle and they have balls and they're throwing balls to each other. And so you're supposed to count how many times you saw a person in a white shirt toss the ball to somebody else in a white shirt. And so I was concentrating on that. And I came close to the right number. It was 16 and I got to 15. So I was amazed that I even figured that out. But I totally did not see the gorilla in the costume, the person in the gorilla costume walk through the whole thing, and the curtains behind change color and all sorts of things. So that just really shows how we're paying attention to. How can you miss a gorilla walking through this whole thing? And so you showed it again, and then when this time looking for the gorilla, there's the gorilla. It
Yeah,
was fast.
there's this old not it's not a rhyme, but the brain twister type of thing, and they say if you're driving on a bus and the first stop it picks up two people, second and it keeps on going, how many people it picked up, it picks up two, it leaves out one, it picks up 10, it leaves out eight, and you're concentrating on the number of people there are. The last question is how many stops did the bus make?
Exactly.
So it's sort of like a distraction of where your attention is, but that's not the question.
Right.
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 But
And
anyway,
yeah.
yeah, there are a whole bunch of mind things like that. But the whole thing is, I think the internet serves to separate the generations versus bringing them together?
I think that depends on where you choose to look because my algorithms are all sending me unity and
Like,
love thy neighbor and pro-social psychology evidence that we are becoming more of a united species than ever before, that nationalism is falling apart, that systems that no longer work really for us in our favor are failing, and the rise of all the good trouble that's happening right now. So think it really depends on where you
Mhm.
look. My
Well,
yeah.
world is pretty positive.
well,
Well, let's talk about women.
well, my first comment to that is you're not listening to the news.
That's my choice. And if I
I know.
do, because I want to be, I'm a citizen of this world and of this city and this county and this state, I'll pop in, I'll have an observer's mind, and I'll make sure I get my news from a number of sources.
But as I've been saying in the world, a lot of the world, the different countries have become more nationalistic and more, and they're not accepting other peoples into their world, and they're trying almost. The U.S. is sort of almost like typical. It's we want to become, make America great again. And making America great again is getting rid of all the people that weren't here, which basically is white Christians are the majority here. And let's get rid of the rest. Let's get rid of the Latinos. Let's get rid of the Asians. Let's get rid of the well, it's hard to get rid of the the black because they were born here and they're part of it. But it seems that and a lot of the other countries are becoming. I know even in Canada now they're becoming very anti-Asian. And
Yeah,
around the world, the governments are very becoming more, are sort of tending to be right-wingish.
here's evidence of an evolutionary breakthrough of humanity. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but we can see it. We are right in between the breakdown and the breakthrough in 2024, 2025, more than we were a month ago, or 4 years ago, or 10 years ago. Every day we get closer to witnessing evidence of the breakdown to the breakthrough. That is, first of all, and philosophers, but also psychologists and quantum scientists are all saying and have evidence of this, that where our minds are becoming more expansive, thanks to what the internet brings us. But because it can compute all this data and bring us this important information. And this is also speaking for women, Yana. So I'm glad that we want to go there too. Um, Evidence of the breakdown are the clamp down on power from those in power, right? Because they want to hold on to their power. But these times, these evolutionary times are are thrusting us like an impulse out of this condition of domination theory that never really served. It did serve us. It brought us the industrial age. It brought us rules and things that both men and women have benefited from. Of course, women have gotten the short end of the stick as an understatement on the disproportionate impact on patriarchy and systems of domination. And let's be clear, patriarchy is not gender specific. All right, that's right, because I know a lot of women who
Mhm.
are very patriarchal and really holding our own ankles down from achieving what is our birthright to achieve. And also honoring who we are, just by the biology of the fact that we create life. There would not be life if there wasn't water and there weren't women. Without the two, bam, can't. Just there's no argument, all right? Or I won't hear it. I challenge y'all to bring it to me. Well, now there's the petri dish, but
Uh,
even we need water for that. So, what I'm really saying here is the system of domination is going to hold on to that power like an animal resisting death. It's going to buck, it's going to bite, it's going to hold on. And then the people of the half of the country, for example, who think making America great again means going back to the racist society where we knew who everyone's role, women, black people, and people of color, And this hierarchical power over structure, which we have to face it as Americans, that is our story. That is our story. So let's make America brighter than we were in the past, or a brighter spotlight on who we really are again. I prefer not to do that, but I can look back and go, oh, isn't that fascinating?
Well,
We're seeing the power clamp down.
right, yeah. Now, what do you do on on an average day or a day? What are you trying to accomplish? Who are you dealing with? What type of people, and how are you getting to them?
Well, right now I'm in the middle of research that was inspired when on the Women's Task Force at the last Parliament of World's Religions in Chicago, knowing that patriarchal systems are the birth child from major religions. I mean, from major through lines for systems of domination have been the faith traditions. And so, because you say, oh, well, God says this and God says that. And the Bible was written by men and scribed by men, taking the word of God rather than how we did it before, which was appealing to nature, the highest and the deepest values of nature, and collaboration and cooperation and egalitarian societies where men and women shared equal seats at the table, and goddesses were worshipped. And now we're facing a faceless God in the sky, and we have to trust what he says. So we're losing our right brain mentality, and which is really we're inquisition into theories, and it's making way for just like stick to the mechanics, stay in that domination trance. Let me back up and say, I'm Jewish. I'm an interfaith activist. I admire, respect, and honor all faith traditions. This is not bashing faith traditions, but the fact remains that the Parliament of the World's Religions was a great place to put a women's village right in the middle of it, to demonstrate to the world's religions, this is what it looks like today when women create a space in the system, in the spirit of the divine feminine, and it's for both men and women. People came up to us all week long and said, the air is different in here. I feel safer in here. We saw problems in here that we hadn't been able to solve in the other workshops. There was so much nutrient-rich space in there, and it was just space. But it was how we developed that space. And that's when I came home and we changed our name to the Global Women's Village. So to answer a question from a long, long time ago, Malcolm, what do I do? What am I doing? Who am I talking to? Right now, my research is talking to anyone from, I'm interviewing now about 86 people. Tomorrow, I'm talking to a 12-year-old who is this brilliant feminist, and from her to educators and thought leaders and scientists and medical professionals and political activists who have written policy and or shaped policy, to the United Nations consultants to the highest seat in the United Nations, to Rianne Eisler, a friend of we. And so from ages 12 to 93 and about 40 different sectors of people, I need to hear from everybody. Is this my illusion? And my hypotheses, even though I don't want to call it that, because I don't want to claim any I want to hear it from the critical mass. I want to crowdsource what they think is going on in the world right now. What a practical outcome of that, and these casual conversations we just launch into conversation and they go where they go, is developing into the Center for Women Who Future. We are women. We're a new archetype of women.
Now, I realize that women are making great strides, but the question I have, which I just thought about, are there any major religions that women have the same amount of power or equality with men? Because I know Judaism, I'm Jewish also. It gets into, because of the different Judaism, Orthodox is still very sexist. but you get conservative or all the other types of Judaism that they have women rabbis and women can do certain things. But I know in Catholicism, they can't be priests or they're nuns, but the nuns are secondary to the man.
Mhm.
And is there any religions out there that women are equal to men?
In
Uni-
major religion.
Very
Major.
universalists are. That's what I am, and there's a great many women um,
Mhm.
in. I don't want to call it positions of power, but they're equally. I would say it's very equal in the leading the worship services and who is a minister and whatnot. It's Unitarian Universalist is very much. Many people think of it as being more of a social justice organization.
Now, well,
But they're not a world religion. They're, as a matter of fact, but I think they're the silent majority, as is the earth-based traditions. So yeah, yeah, there are. I didn't go ahead, Yana, please continue.
I thought Malcolm was going to say something.
what is one of the major religions? Well, aside from Judaism, Christianity. Um,
Islam and Baha'i, which is a subcategory
and
of
it seems
Islam,
like
if you will, it came
Islam,
off of Islam.
most of it, the women are totally subservient to men.
But it depends on who you ask in the religion. Like if you were to ask my niece who's ultra Orthodox, she wears a wig to
Oh yeah,
represent,
a
yeah,
shadel.
yeah, and covers all the way down to the ankles. If you ask her, and she was raised pretty reformed. She went to public high school. She was on the volleyball team. She wore short shorts, and both of my nieces were your average American girl, if there's a way of describing them. And then they just, really got involved with the Chabad movement. If you ask them, it's very important that their roles as women, critically important. They don't read from the Torah though, even though both of them are bat mitzvahed. They don't read from the Torah, but they believe that women already have all the knowledge. They don't need to read. So you and I can look back and go, yeah, that's seriously, patriarchal. But if you ask them, and that's really what matters, isn't it? That it brings them
Well, not
peace.
necessarily as the
Yeah.
world goes. It's like if you go to a Fiddler on the Roof, it's tradition. Everybody has a certain function.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's only the men that could go studying the Torah, and it's women can't. The women still have the duties of the house, but that's their duties. They take care of the house. They take care of the meals. But to me, it's still very sexist, even though it's in their society, it is as important.
That's right. That's right. And isn't it ironic that no one's talking about the fact that, and no one's talking about the fact that the power of our wombs as women, and the fact that we are the first oceans, and like I said earlier, life would not exist without us.
Right.
And so, I once was having a conversation with someone who was a contemporary of Dr. King, and I made the comment that, well, not unlike Dr. King, and your fight for equality. And he stopped me. He goes, no, no, no. Let's be very clear. We would never be equal. We have a different story than you. And this is true of women too. We can't be equal with men because men can't give birth. We can't seed life, and well, we do in a different way. We are the first to bring the seed, but not in the same way. We need the partnership, but what we need and what we're coming back into is balance and that's called parity, equal access, right? Equal respect. Why is it that women, like you said, we're just accepting the fact, well, we've achieved so much. We almost had a woman president, and we were celebrating the whole way from making it as far as she did. Yet, why? Why isn't it just a no-brainer? Why isn't it the norm why are we counting? Like you said, why are we going into a boardroom and counting how many women are in there? Like black people do when they walk into a market, count how many black people. It's just the natural thing they do, kind of because we have this condition of the other. And so, this is really an important conversation to have this is why the Center for Women Who Future is being developed to create this new archetype so that we normalize what indigenous people, how they operate in their tribes, on their lands, how they celebrate the women and men are a part of the they know that they're one. They're just two halves of one whole with
Mhm.
different functions.
Yeah, they're doing artificial everything now, right? I'm wondering if they're trying to develop an artificial sperm, and then you wouldn't need a man at all.
How
Who
come?
But but,
knows?
but anyway, I rem in college I took a course on love and marriage type of thing and the couples. And there was one society, and I forget where it was. It was sort of like in the Caribbean, where they felt that uh, a woman being pregnant was a gift of God. It wasn't the male sperm. And what happened is when a woman gave birth, the brother took care of the kids. They say the family was a brother and a sister. And when the kids came, the brother took the responsibility of managing the family. The men wasn't important because there were so many, sailors coming into the ports that it was their kids and they just left. So the father was almost unimportant as far as who was the sperm donator. The family was the sister, the brother, and the child.
Interesting about
And,
the brother, but you see how culture is pliable, how everything is impermanent. So let's start changing what we focus on and what we're counting and and question assumptions and see our role, especially women. Yanni, you wanted to talk more about women, especially about women who believe this domination trance or don't even see it and see how we perpetuate it. This domination trance I'm talking about. This is a word, of course, that that Dr. Riane Eisler, who is also a friend, and we just wrote a paper together on connecting the dots between systemic violence and terrorism, home violence in the home and terrorism, and seeing we operate in these silos. We think we're going to fix this problem. When that problem's done, that problem's done. But we don't see the root of that, and then how all these other silos are playing a role in that, and then we're constantly chasing our tail and putting out fires, aren't we?
Mhm.
How
Right.
is it possible that the ERA is turned around? How is it possible in this country, in this world?
And
Because
women voted to voted it down too. That's the thing.
right,
And how can that be?
right. Because we haven't healed those deep roots. We haven't done our deep tissue work.
So, who are you trying to your groups? Are you trying to concentrate on getting the whole gestalt, everybody involved, or basically, giving the women the power, so to speak? Having straighten their heads out.
Well, everybody, of course. First of all, men have been deeply wounded by the patriarchal, by the system of patriarchy, deeply, right? It's not natural
Men
for
who don't
men.
buy into that whole macho, like, who are sensitive and see the value of both together, with parity and equity, not to be this.
Well, my joke with my wife always is, her function was to raise the kids, do the cooking, clean the house. And my function was to protect the house. So I told them, since we've been married, you haven't been attacked by any bears or tigers. I protected the house. That was my role.
Right. And
Why
so,
be so patient, Malcolm? That's all
Yeah,
I
I
can.
know. I think after 30 years,
Angel.
she's probably starting to see through my philosophy.
Another indicator of these evolutionary times is what a friend of mine, his name is Clay Boykin, and Clay he has this beautiful podcast called In Search of the New Compassionate Male as the next archetype for men. And I was on a call not that long ago where someone was saying, oh, it was one of my interviews, where she was saying she had just gotten off a call with high level international policymakers from the Arab countries. And that she said it's fascinating because their language is softening. We're seeing more indication. They're talking more about compassion. They're talking more about inclusivity. They're talking more about simultaneous thinking. These are all characteristics of the divine feminine that exist in both male and female. I want to also take this time to make sure I get in with the time that we have left that the right brain, left brain science is really, really another telling sign. So another sign, remember I said we see a sign of the breakdown, systems that power clamp down, things aren't working, more silos coming up to protect themselves. These systems that have got these safety nets to keep them thriving are starting to get, not hold water anymore. And we're starting to see indications of that. Whereas the good signs are, or the healthy new growth is seeing the divine feminine rising in men. The conversations I'm having everywhere, especially probably on the We Network too, and Unity Earth and all of those things. All of those folks are all compassionate men.
Hmm.
Right? And perhaps they've always existed, but now we can put a name to it. And that's the first sign of change. It's when we can name it, then we can identify it, and then we can think about it.
Well, Sandy, I think we can continue. Pardon me for interrupting, but I think we can
Oh,
continue this
sorry.
for the next 3 days
You're right.
and
Absolutely.
beyond. But our time is up here. We have to have you back again
Thank you.
and get to be specific because we're talking right now in great generalities.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Wordy.
do you have a website or a place that people can contact you if they're interested in furthering,
Let
what
me
you're doing?
let me give you two. My name, sandyhart.com. I spell my name SandeHart.com.
And Heart?
Yes, SandeHart Hart
Yeah.
.com, which you can also from there get to the Global Women's Village. And also my book is there on the front there, The Liminal Odyssey. And we have a event coming up next month that you might both like to come to, maybe listeners would be interested. It's right on the homepage. It's In Our Right Minds. It's the science that I'm talking about right now.
In our right mind?
In Our Right Minds. Yeah, it's based on a book, and the author is with us. And In Our Right
Yeah.
Minds.
I think I have to be excluded for that. I don't know if anybody thinks I'm in my right mind.
It's exactly why you need to come to see how much you are in your right mind. Yeah.
But anyway, thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you
And
for
tell your
having me.
friends you'll be on this weekend on malcolmpresents.com under the thing Malcolm and We.
Very good. I will absolutely do that.
Yana, you have any
Very
last
good.
words? Because you're involved now with getting the Martin Luther King.
Yes, 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 that's coming up. We invited Sandy, but her schedule, her calendar is packed.
But I was
Not
one of the founders, along with John Raymer of the Compassion Games, or he was
oh
the
yeah,
founder. I was
part
his,
we're doing that's part of the whole MLK is working with
yeah.
Compassion Games and AmeriCorps. So,
Yeah.
but we'll try to get you back for other events. But yes, it's coming up January 15th to the end of February. We have a lot of great guests coming on already. Brigitte and I are working very hard, inviting lots and lots and lots of people, and so there will be more information later coming up.
And could you tell our folks if they want to be a guest on the show and talk about what they're doing, how they can contact you?
Yes, yes, yes. Well, you can contact me at We the World at Jana Larson, spelled JanaLarsen at we.net.
Okay, thank you. And guys, next week is Christmas. And
Yep.
and
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
And
Actually, it's
Hanukkah.
on the same day, December 25th.
Right. And so we're taking next week off.
Yeah, and Kwanzaa is I think the next day, the day after Christmas. So whatever
Yeah.
your religion is or belief is, have a happy holiday.
And
And
be safe.
we'll probably see each other next year. Oh my God, 2025. I don't believe it. Bye.
Bye bye.